knowing and all-powerful, starting with the elderly wolf uncle chapter 112. Subsequently, after a series of psychological struggles, he decided to become the Flash. Chen Tian thought, although I don't know what kind of appearance and identity he will have in this universe now. Quote, but now there's good news that wherever there are criminals, the Flash will appear. Then, I just have to wait for the criminals to appear. At this point in his thoughts, he showed a hint of a smile. Moreover, in this case, as long as the criminal appears, the Flash will naturally activate the ability when he is present. And I can copy his Godspeed power in the first place. Quote, I don't have to approach him on purpose. The idea goes so far. Chen Tian set his eyes on the Flash Museum in front of him again. This museum is dedicated to the Flash in Central City. Although he has only appeared for a few months, he has already solved many problems for Central City. That's why he got such an honor and asked the government of a city to build a memorial museum for him 2 months ago. Then again, Central City is also a city with a very high crime rate. Chen Tian suddenly smiled. Maybe it's superheroes and all kinds of trouble. There are 320 laws that attract each other, so they will be born in places where trouble often appears. Mumbling, he had already walked towards the Flash Museum in front of him. Since they have come, they naturally want to take a look. Maybe you can find more clues about the Flash in it. Thereupon, with this in mind, Chen Tian went to the gate of the museum, bought a ticket that was not cheap, and walked into the museum. As he walked, he couldn't help but slander. It is said to be grateful to the Flash, but this is definitely not a new means of accumulating wealth by the Central City government. Quote, leaks for those Flash fans. It is estimated that the Flash himself will be charged tickets when he comes here. Shaking his head, Chen Tian continued to walk forward for a while. Immediately, at the main entrance of the museum hall, I saw the statue of the Flash. This is a big guy 3 meters tall. The Flash's red suit and the yellow lightning symbol on the chest have been reproduced. The whole statue takes on a gesture of running forward. The workmanship is quite delicate. Chen Tian praised, did not make too much observation, and continued to walk into the hall. He quickly looked at all the things in the Flash Museum. Actually, there isn't much to see. After all, how long was the Flash born in this Central City? It's only been a few months. In addition to the sculptures at the entrance of the hall, the only objects that can be put on display in the museum are all the newspapers left behind by the Flash after successfully capturing criminals Zero and various weapon fragments that left traces when the other party attacked. Oh, there are also several photos of the Flash taken by reporters. As for the rest, there is really nothing. Hiss. After visiting the entire museum, Chen Tian remembered the tickets he needed to buy before entering the museum, and he immediately gasped. Slaughtered. He wrinkled and muttered. Although Chen Tian is not short of money now, as long as he is willing, he can even get countless wealth. But those things, for Chen Tian, were just one of the tools for completing the means. But, Rao is so. This does not mean that Chen Tian himself likes this feeling of being wronged. It's one thing not to care about money. Being slaughtered as a big deal is another matter. Speechless, Chen Tian suddenly couldn't help but complain in a low voice. Immediately, he had already visited the entire museum and prepared to leave the museum. However, just as he walked towards the museum hall, but he sensed that at the back door, there was a strong and incomparable fluctuation of killing intent. Chen Tian, who has psychic abilities, has a strong sense of crisis and murder. I just came to this Central City, and I was already targeted. Chen Tian, who felt the murderous intent, was immediately puzzled. It stands to reason that no one in the 600th world should hate me, Gotham and Metropolis don't, and Central City shouldn't be. Quote, the reason why he gave birth to such an idea is because he has no enemies in the 600th world. Or rather, there are no enemies who are still alive. There was even psychic ability in hand, and no one remembered him at all. All the guys in the 600th world who have been provoked have turned into dead bodies at this moment. That's why Chen Tian felt strange. Moreover, I haven't shown my abilities since I came to Central City. How did it get topped? And this murderous intention is still so strong. He suddenly frowned, and looked in the direction where the sense of crisis came from. Of course, Chen Tian was just puzzled by this sudden killing intent, and he didn't know where it came from, but the panic did not exist. And just when Chen Tian turned his head and passed, I saw a masked figure slowly walking out the back door and standing in front of a photo of the Flash. Then the person who couldn't see his face clearly stared at the picture of the Flash like this, and the feeling of crisis on his body became more and more profound. Chen Tian narrowed his eyes. It seems that this guy is not coming at me, but has a contradiction with the Flash. Thoughts go on and on. Chen Tian released his mind fluctuations and shrouded the other party. Suddenly, it was on this hooded guy that he detected an extremely terrifying killing intent. And apparently, this killing intent is aimed at the Flash. Is it the Flash's old rival? Chen Tian noticed this, and immediately began to search for all kinds of information about the Flash in his mind. See if you can find the existence of this person in various versions of the Flash comics and film and television series. It's a pity. Then, Chen Tian secretly sighed to himself. It is still uncertain what kind of situation this universe is in the Central City. The Flash in different universes have their own differences. There are even multiple Flashes in the universe at the same time. Now it's not even clear what version the Flash is, let alone his opponent. Thinking of this, Chen Tian's eyes flickered. If I can, I hope to find the Flash Barry Allen. He is definitely the most potential existence among the Flash. After all, a lot of messes in the Justice League were finally solved by him who can go back in time. Just when Chen Tian was constantly thinking, the masked figure standing in place suddenly sensed something and projected his gaze towards Chen Tian. Chen Tian did not panic at all. However, when he looked at the masked man, Chen Tian found that the other party's eyes were filled with a kind of murderous intent as cold as ice. Which was obviously not the other side that ordinary people could have. The masked man standing in front of the Flash's photo did not react strangely after withdrawing his indifferent gaze. Just started lifting his feet and walking towards the outside of the museum hall. Perhaps, follow this guy, you can find the Flash. Chen Tian thought so, just about to prepare to follow. Rumble, a violent explosion suddenly spread, and the ground trembled. You can smell a very clear, AHCC, smell of gunpowder, which spreads in the air. At the same time, there are many other visitors in the museum, who are really frightened by this explosion. Time. Exclamations, cries, screams. All kinds of voices with negative emotions spread throughout the museum in an instant.